So now that we've created our users and groups, let's talk about how we can associate these with permissions for files and folders and control access to data that's on our server. Now, let's start here. I am in my home directory, and I know that because I have that little tilde in. My home directory is /home/David. In fact, if I type pwd or print working directory, it will show me that whole path. Now, what I want to do is I've got a group in here called sales. And what I want to do is I want to create a folder where I can store some files for the sales group. And I want them to be available to everybody in sales. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder in not my personal home directory, but in the /home directory for sales. So let me show you how this works. I'm going to do cd period, and that shows me now I'm in the /home. If I do an ls-l, remember that gives me the long listing, more details, shows me that I've got two folders here. And I want you to look at this first block of 10 characters. So it's D, looking at my top one, D RWX, R-X, R-X. Now that first character D, that identifies us as a directory. If it was a file, it wouldn't have that. Now the next three, RWX, there are three permissions we need to be aware of. Read, write, and execute. So RWX. Read obviously gives you the permission to read a file. Write gives you the permission to write or write the file or create a file if you're in a folder that has that R or W permission. X is the ability to execute. So that's going to be to execute scripts and applications. Now, these are repeated 3 times. The first RWX is for the user that owns the file or the folder. And you'll see here my name, David. So if you get past this, past the 3, you see David. That is the user. The next one over is the name of the group. So the user that owns the file and then the group that owns the file. And those look the same. Remember, Ubuntu, when you create a new user, it creates a group that associates with that. It becomes the primary group for that particular user. Okay, so the first 3 is for the user that owns the file, RWX. So my user has read, write, execute. My group has read and execute, but not write. Now, doesn't matter, I can still write there because I'm the user that owns the file as well. The last R-X is for everybody else, for the whole world or all. So basically what this means is I can read, write, execute in that folder. Anyone else can read and execute, but not write. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now, I am going to go to the administrative user because I'm going to be doing some things here that are going to require me to have root permissions, and I don't want to have to keep typing sudo. So I'm going to create a new folder. So that's mkdir, make directory, and I'm going to make a directory called sales. Now, when I do this, because I did it with elevated permissions, and my user, by the way, couldn't do that. I don't have right permissions to this folder. So because I did it with elevated permissions, notice that the owner that owns the file, the user that owns the file is root, and the group that owns the file is root as well. Now I want to point out one thing here, and that is you can have one group that owns a file. And this is different from Windows Server, where you can take multiple groups and give them different levels of permissions on the file. You really can't do that here. You have one group that owns the file, and you set permissions for that one group. Now, I want this to be available to sales. So with the sales group, I need to make the sales group the group owner of this file. So I do that using the command chgrp or change group. I'm going to do it for the, I want to add the sales group to the sales folder. Now if I do an LSL, notice that this group is now owned by sales. So anybody who's part of the sales group has read and execute permissions, but they don't have write permissions. So I need to give them write permissions. So use chgroup to change the group owner. Chown, by the way, changes the user owner as well. So I want to change the group owner, or I want to give permissions to the owning group for their write permissions. So we're going to do that using chmod. So I'm going to modify. I want to, for the group, I want to add write permissions. Now, you're going to identify what you want first, the group O for owner, G for group, A for all. And then it's plus or minus RWX. So I want to add write permissions to the sales folder. Now if I do an LSL, you're going to see that for our group, that second one, we've got RWX. Now let's say I want to take away the execute permissions for the rest of the world. I only want them to be able to read. I don't want them to be able to execute. So what I can do here is I can do chmod, and I can do all minus execute for the sales folder. And now if I do an LSL, you can see that the owner can, now because I did all, it took away execute for everybody. That wasn't quite what I was looking for. I hit the wrong option there. But since we're here, let me go ahead and show you the help files for chmod. So I'm going to do chmod -h. Now, some older commands don't do the -h. They make you do the -- help. Let me clear this. chmod -- help. And here's where we've got the mode of the form: user, group, other, all. There we go. So I wanted other to have to take the execute permissions away. But I wanted everybody else to have those permissions. Now I do want to show you something else too, and that is we can do this with a numbering system. So let me ls-l here real quick, because I want to add execute permissions back to the owner, user owner, and the group owner. And so I could do this with, group add x, owner add x. There's another way I can do this too, and that is using a numbering system. So here's the way this works. The read permission counts as 4. The write permission we'll consider 2. The execute permission we consider 1. And so what we do is we add up those numbers to get the permissions that we want. So this is what it would look like. I'm going to do chmod. Now I want read, write, and execute for the user that owns the file. So read is 4, write is 2, execute is 1. 4 plus 2 plus 1 is 7. I want read, write, and execute for the group. So again, it's 4 plus 2 plus 1, 7. For the everybody else, I only want read, I don't want write and execute. So that's just going to be 4. So it's chmod 774. The first 7 is for the user, the second 7 is for the group, the 4, the third position, the 4, is for everybody else. So I'm going to apply that to my sales folder. And you'll see now we have the user root has read, write, execute. The group sales has read, write, execute. And the everyone else has just read. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to exit out as me, or from root, and now I'm just me. So I'm going to go to the sales folder. And it says my permission is denied. Well, I'm not part of the sales group, right? So even though I can read that it's there, I can't go in and actually do anything with it. So I'm going to add M. Maxwell. So I'm going to add M. Maxwell to the sales group. So I'm going to do a user modify append as a secondary group. Append as a secondary group sales to the user M. Maxwell. Now, if I do sudo groups M. Maxwell, it shows me that Maxwell is in that sales group. So let me switch user to M. Maxwell. Hey, and I remember their password. Now, they are currently in their the /home directory. Now, if I go to sales, they can get in because they are a member of that sales group. Not only can they get in, they can even create a file here. So I'm going to use a weird command. It's called touch. And I'm going to set a file name. We're just going to say data. And what touch does is it creates a file. file has 0 bytes, and so you can see there's no capital D. You can also see that the name is in white, indicating this is a file, not a folder. And we have read-write permissions for the using owner, M. Maxwell. We have read-write permissions for the using group, M. Maxwell. And we have read permissions for everybody else. Okay. So we've seen how we can now set permissions, change ownership. Let's say I wanted to change the user owner of this to root and the group owner to sales. So by changing that group owner, then I just open it up to everyone else who's in the sales group. So remember, it's ch group, change group to sales for the file name is data. And now that's owned by sales, the sales group. And because I created that as M. Maxwell, I can do that. So basically, M. Maxwell just shared that with everyone else. If we wanted to change the user owner, it's CHOWN, change owner, and I want to change it to the root owner for the file named data. Okay, I can't do that one. So let's, I can't do that because I just realized I don't have sudo. So I am going to exit out. I don't have sudo permission for M. Maxwell. So sudo su, and that's going to make me administrator or root. So cd sales ch change ownership of data to root. Whoops. Change owner to root for data. There we go. Okay, so now you can see how we can change owners, change groups, set permissions, and hopefully that little numbering system for permissions makes sense. Honestly, I find it easier frequently to do that rather than to use the user group owner. Let me do the here we go. The user group other all plus minus equals. All right. For me, I just find the numbering system a little bit easier to use since we only have 4 permissions. Remember, read is worth 4, write is worth 2, execute is worth 1. Okay, there we go. That's your real brief introduction to managing permissions and owners for Unix-based files and folders, but hopefully that gets you enough that you can start working with it and begin securing files and folders on your system.